It's been really interesting when you talk to successful people. A number of them talk about a depression or a despair that happens when they reach the thing that they thought was going to change everything. When I am being driven by fear, I'm not actually ever able to enjoy. There are everyday stressors and there's traumatic stress. Traumatic stressors overwhelm our usual capacity to cope.
How does someone move forward when someone has hurt them, but they never got that apology that they hoped for?
It is to say to myself, my opinion of myself is more important than their opinion of me.
Dr. Thema Bryant is one of the most respected voices in psychology in the world. A clinical psychologist, a tenured professor at the Pepperdine University, and director of the Culture and Trauma Research Laboratory. She's an author, an ordained minister, a sacred artist, and the host of the Homecoming podcast.
You've written multiple books, but one of the books that I wanted to start with is Homecoming. The book begins somewhere that really stayed with me. And you open Homecoming with that Diana Ross lyric that was taken from the movie The Wiz, where she sings, "There's a feeling here inside. I wish I was home." What made you start there?
Well, it really has a personal meaning for me because I love to dance. And in elementary school, that song is the first song I choreographed to. And so dancing brings me home to myself. So it has like those layered meanings, both like the lyrics, my personal journey, and also for the reader, the start of Homecoming is the recognition that I'm not at home within myself. So we have to start with like honoring the truth within myself that I have gone off course.
And for those who might not know, what exactly is Homecoming? Because it really is the core of a lot of the work that you're doing.
Yes. So homecoming is to return to the truth and the authenticity of yourself. Oftentimes, because of stress and trauma, we get disconnected. And so the homecoming journey is a journey of reclamation, reclaiming my truth, reclaiming my feelings, reclaiming my needs, reclaiming my dreams. So it is the decision to reconnect to my truth and then to live based in that truth.
And one of the things that can take us away from ourselves is fear. But fear doesn't always show up clearly. It can hide behind busyness, control, or that belief we're simply being realistic. So how do we recognize fear when it's disguised?
Yes, it is when am I able, if ever, to feel peace within myself? When I am being driven by fear, I'm not actually ever able to enjoy. So we may do a good job, but I don't really enjoy it. So there's a lack of celebration. There's a lack of grounding within myself. There is a perpetual, insatiable quest for something outside of me.
And I guess there's so many people who might have that quest. Maybe it's their goals that they're trying to achieve in their life. And maybe for many people who feel like if they achieve specific milestones, that fear might disappear. But that's not always the case, is it?
Right. It's been really interesting when you talk to successful people. A number of them talk about a depression or a despair that happens when they reach the thing that they thought was going to change everything. We often have that like, if only I had this, then I would feel good enough. But the line continues to move. That's often even the case around money, that the amount that people have now, even if it's more than they used to have, then it somehow doesn't feel enough. Like then it becomes, well, if I made this amount, and so then you even have with millionaires saying, but I'm not a billionaire. So there is like this constant search for meaning, for significance, for worthiness, for value.
What are the signs that fear rather than genuine desire is driving them?
If we can say, when was the last time I had good sleep? When was the last time I had fun and I didn't feel guilty for it? When was the last time I chose something lighthearted for myself? Am I able, what is my capacity for joy? Because it's hard to have joy when I'm anxious, right? So we can start to ask ourselves those questions to determine, is it really the dream that I'm pursuing, or what is it I am running from, right? Sometimes it's not just what I'm running toward, but I'm running from scarcity. I'm running from shame. I'm running from insecurity with that sense of a desperation that all those things are about to catch up with me, or that people are going to see those things in me.
So what I'm hearing is that fear can sometimes be a sign that something deeper is going on. And that brings me to trauma. I think many people hear the word trauma and assume it has nothing to do with them because they imagine some traumatic big event. But trauma can also be quieter than that.
We want to recognize there are everyday stressors and then there's traumatic stress. So sometimes people get them mixed up. So if you had an argument with your sister and you're just kind of fussing with each other, or there's a long line at the bank and someone's like, I was traumatized. Well, that's not a trauma, right? You were stressed. And the stressors that we have, the daily sources of stress, we learn how to manage them, to navigate them. They're related to the different roles and responsibilities that we have. But traumatic stressors overwhelm our usual capacity to cope. They are, can be experiences of violence. It could be sexual violence, domestic violence, community violence. People can also have medical traumas. So, a medical incident that happens, a natural disaster can be a trauma. Incarceration can be a trauma. We can also have traumatic losses when someone you love or care about dies suddenly, whether it's a violent death or not. That can also be a source of trauma. Interestingly, two sources of trauma that a lot of people don't hear about. One is intergenerational trauma. So sometimes the trauma is inherited. So if I was raised by parents who were trauma survivors, or I'm a descendant of a large-scale collective trauma, that can be passed down to us. And so we can hold in our nervous system experiences, even if we didn't have them directly. And then another form of trauma is societal traumas, which are like oppression. That sexism can be traumatizing, racism can be traumatizing, poverty, being unhoused can be a trauma.
You've said trauma can live in the body. It's not just in the mind. For someone who feels anxious or tense or unsettled, but doesn't know why, how might inherited trauma be showing up in their life?
Yeah. So one is, as we're getting older, and your relationship with your parents or the adults in your family change, sometimes they're more willing to tell you their story. And so because you may not know what they have lived through, what they have survived. And so, asking them about their lives, their experiences, and that can start to make things make sense. right? It's like if you didn't know that your aunts were survivors of domestic violence and you just thought like they're kind of intense around dating advice. But then once you hear more of their story, it's like, oh, that's where that's coming from. And then when it gets to like the intergenerational trauma that's collective, then learning about the history of your heritage, of your cultural community, of what did my ancestors survive. And so then once I have an awareness of that, we think about there are three main ways that they can pass down that trauma to us. One is actually biologically, that the trauma shifts the nervous system and the brain, and we can inherit that. Another one is observing them. So if you see how your parents act under pressure, under stress in certain environments, then we could start to follow their model.
What are some of the ways trauma shows up in our lives?
So emotionally, the effects can look like depression, can look like post-traumatic stress disorder, can look like anxiety. For some people, there's also a numbness, a dissociation or disconnection. And it can also show up with anger. And I like to say it's healthy to be outraged about outrageous things. Sometimes anger gets like a bad rap, but people have been mistreated and harmed in particular ways. And so that full range of human emotions. Not only does it show up in terms of our emotions, but it also can show up socially. So it may be difficult to trust people, difficult to build relationships, that it feels too risky or too vulnerable to be open because of the fear that, that people can hurt you. People can do harmful things. So it can make relationships difficult. It can also cause us, as opposed to avoiding relationships, some people become very anxious, or what people may call as like needy, but needing that assurance, needing people around, fear of abandonment. All of those things can show up. It can also affect us physically. So some people develop migraines, backache, nausea. It can show up in your skin. People, when they get stressed, sometimes their skin will break out or their hair might fall out. So it can literally show up in the body.
If your past is still affecting you, what are 3 ways to start healing?
And so that first step is recognize the wounds. The second one is to look at the lie that the trauma told you about yourself, right? So we're trying to shatter the shame, right? Because traumas tell us that we don't deserve better. Traumas tell us that this is what love looks like or feels like. Trauma tells us that we can never expect good things to happen. And so we want to start to dismantle the lie so that we don't overgeneralize, right? Mm-hmm. What happens is like there may have been some truth to a part of what we believe, but now we have broadened it so that it's everybody all the time. So kind of disrupting those lies. And then the third thing is to allow for the discomfort, the growing pains of healing. Because we often present healing to be like this magical, beautiful, joyful thing. But it can also be very awkward. If I'm used to living this other kind of way, and I'm trying to grow, heal, and stretch, it may feel uncomfortable. So then to resist the pull of going back to my old patterns.
What would you say to a person who's feeling this right now? Where can they just start and make that change on a daily basis?
So I would encourage people to start their day with a morning ritual to help to set your mind and clear your mind for the day, because that's the other thing with anxiety is it can be hard for us to be still. And so, we stay up with either scrolling on the phone or with television. And then as soon as we wake up, we're off and racing and running again. And so to say, I'm going to wake up before I have to get up. And then I'm going to do something that feeds my spirit or feeds my soul, that nourishes me in some way. So for some people, that might be saying a prayer or meditating. For some people, they may want to wake up early enough where they could go for a walk in nature. For some people, to sit and drink some hot tea in silence. For some people, it might be listening to your podcast. So they will do something in the morning that nourishes you so that you go out in the day with a sense of being grounded and rooted.
You've spoken about the relationship we have with ourselves. Now I want to move on to the relationship we have with other people. In your latest book, Matters of the Heart, you write that love is not a level playing field. What did you mean by that?
So we don't all learn how to love. Not all of us get to grow up seeing healthy relationships. Not all of us had the opportunity to see what does healthy conflict resolution look like, where, people don't just yell and scream or throw things or fight or, cut people off because they disagreed with them. So one is not a level playing field in terms of knowledge or like skills, social skills. Another way it's not a level playing field is not everyone gets to experience being desired in the same way. Like our society, promotes these very narrow ideas of who is beautiful or who is worthy of being chosen or selected. And so that's not equal. And we have to acknowledge that of what does it do to our psychology when we have not been held up or esteemed? And sometimes what it can cause us to do is to not believe we'll ever be treated well. So then we can settle and kind of accept whatever people want to give us because we feel like it's the best that we can have. But if the fear is it's this or nothing, then many people will accept those crumbs.
And does that fear come from something that happened in the childhood, or is it something maybe as we get older that creates these types of patterns?
Yeah, well, the fear of not being chosen can be based in a history where you haven't been chosen. That some people that, let's say at whatever grade or as a teenager, that there were people who were being promoted, celebrated, pursued, and other people where it just didn't happen. So then there can be a fear of the way it has been is how it's always going to be. And then it also may be rooted in messages that they received, sometimes not only from peers, but some people's parents have said like, oh, if you keep doing that, or if you look like that, like no one's going to want you or no one's going to love you. So that can be a part of it as well.
And I think for so many of us, there's this internal voice that at times we can be a lot harsher to ourselves and we can be kinder to others. Why are we so kind to everyone else and so hard on ourselves?
Well, we have often been given the false message that doing things for yourself is selfish, right? So we celebrate the person who neglects themselves, right? We'll say that that's a great mother, right? That's a great friend. That's a great, worker. The companies love workers that will give up all their time, like night and day, and not demand any additional pay.
Mm.
They're like, "You're wonderful. We love
Doing a
you."
great job.
Yeah. Or, the volunteer who's willing to take on 10 more tasks. So we reward people for neglecting themselves, and we celebrate them and hold them up as good examples.
And does that turn into an internal self-sabotage where we're getting in our own way because I guess the external validation is saying what you're doing is great, even though it's to the detriment of yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So then we can begin to participate in that, where people don't have to directly force us to do all these things. Sometimes we'll sign up for it, and we'll shape our lives in ways that follow that model. And also people feeling guilty for saying no, feeling guilt, like if people want you to do something that's going to make them happy and you were hoping to like take a nap. And some people will, give you a guilt trip about that, or you might just feel bad yourself of like, oh, I know they really wanted me to do that, so I guess I should just get up and do it.
There's also that mum guilt that many mothers feel, and I guess even myself as well, when you're working or you're traveling and you're thinking something has to give, and that's just life. But what can someone do when they're feeling guilty about a decision?
I think it's a great way to consider modeling, right? So I like to say, do your children only witness you frantic? Even if you're doing things for them, that you're like stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, frantic, constantly busy. Because what I'm modeling to them is like, this is how to live. So when I think about like for my kids, do I want them to like follow this pattern? Like, do I want them to say, I'm going to have lunch with a friend, I'll be back. And say like, yeah, but that's a normal thing to do. That is a healthy thing to do. So to be an example, it's not in perfection, but a more balanced life.
It's about trying to get that balance, even though I guess there isn't real balance, but as balanced as you can be. What are the signs you're self-sabotaging?
When you are constantly tired, when you feel guilty for doing anything for yourself, when you are trying to prevent and you dread the idea that anyone could be disappointed.
When you've spent years saying yes, boundaries can feel uncomfortable. How do we set boundaries that stick?
So one way to start is to stop giving instant responses, right? So if that's how I'm kind of built, whenever someone asks me something, then I'm going to quickly say yes. And then I've given myself no out, right? No opportunity to make another choice. So, you can say, let me check. I'll get back to you. Or I'm not sure if I can do that, but I'll let you know. So, just pressing pause on it. And then if I am going to do it, what will that mean I have to say no to? And then to emotionally prepare myself that not everyone is going to be pleased with you all the time. Because sometimes we're afraid of people being upset. And there's no way that you can set and enforce boundaries if you're in fear of anybody being disappointed. The other thing, which I do want to say, especially if whether it's work or family life, Sometimes if I say no or step back, it won't get done. And that's actually okay, right? We convince ourselves that like everything is urgent, everything is a crisis, everything has to be done now. Well, maybe it actually won't be done this week, and that's all right.
A lot of your work focuses on the relationship with other people and the importance of community. And one of the things that really stood out to me is this idea that the quality of our relationships is one of the biggest predictors of our well-being. Why do our relationships have such a powerful impact on how well we are?
Yes. So when you're facing a hard time or hard situation, when you don't have to go through it alone or carry it alone, or when you're around people who believe in you, who remind you of yourself, of your worthiness, that helps us to get through. It makes such a difference. Um, whether or not you have supportive people in your life or whether they're discouragers, right? So it can either be uh, a source of peace or it can be that they amplify your stress, right? Some people you can have around you that actually make you feel worse. So we want to be really mindful about our circle, the people that we hold up close to us, because it's going to affect our sense of ourselves, our ability to get through hard times, and even the choices that we make are affected and influenced by people around us.
What are the signs a relationship is healing you?
How I feel about myself in this person's presence. You know, some people, when you're in their presence, you can feel encouraged. You can feel more confident. You tell them a secret dream or goal, and they're like, oh, yeah, I could definitely see you doing that. Versus people who like shame you, laugh at you, discard you, reject you. So how do I feel about me when I'm with them? How do I feel like they treat me, both say to my face and how they treat me behind my back? All of those things can be indicators of this is healthy or not.
You've said before, I won't keep my healing hostage, waiting on the people who hurt me. So how does someone move forward when someone has hurt them, but they never got that apology that they hoped for?
It is to say to myself, my opinion of myself is more important than their opinion of me. When I'm waiting for them, it's because I don't really believe it's true until they admit or acknowledge or confess that it's true. So then they're having a lot of power over me. And so I want to come out of agreement with any mindset that says other people get to determine my value, right? I want to break out of, it's really bondage, right? It's a stronghold. It's a source of deception, defeat, and let me say, it prolongs the trauma, right? So they already hurt me, but the more I live on hold, waiting for something from them, now it is multiplying the impact of the action. And I don't want to give it any more time in my life. I like to say some people have written on the pages of my life without my permission, but now I hold a pen. And so I can turn the page instead of just saying, I'm not following them around saying, please write something nice in my story. Like, no, I'm going to write it for myself and I'm going to remove your access to my life story.
So you have the power to create what happens next to you,
Yes.
which is incredibly powerful. Now, you give all of this to millions of people who've heard you talk, the work that you do. And I want to turn it back to you. Who holds you? Who holds Dr. Thema?
Yes. I am so grateful to have wonderful love in my life. So I am held by my partner. I'm held by a sisterhood circle I call the Gathering Sisters. I am held by my latest ancestor would be my mom, who passed a little over a year ago, but she holds me and is present with me. My dad, my brother. I have an extended family that holds me beautifully. So I feel held. And I should say, I am a therapist who also goes to therapy. So I feel held in that way.
How important do you think it is for people to go to therapy?
I think it can be life-changing, that it can help us to better understand ourselves. It can be a place for us to get clarity about, what do I want? What do I need? It can be a place to learn skills that, as I was mentioning, some of us just didn't learn how to do some of the things that relationships require. So it can be a place of learning, of healing, of growing, and definitely not something that we say is only for emergencies. So, your life doesn't have to completely fall apart for you to say, oh, maybe I should go speak with a therapist. At any time can be a good time to start that journey.
Dr. Thema, thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the Executive Edit and for sharing your story and your knowledge.
You are welcome. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.